success based contracts, okay, where based on the results they are going to pay us, right. So I think the world has moved towards that. Probably 5 years, 6 years back it was not, it was still intangible. But I would think there is mechanism in which you can actually control the experiment or control the whole thing that you are trying to see. So whether it is a data management or BI related, then you have a different set of metrics, right. Whereas when it comes to a predictive analytics where you are trying to promote or whether you are trying to launch a campaign, there's a different framework within which you can measure the results. And obviously sales team will always say that this is my role which drove the sales high, but you need to get someone neutral within the organization who is ready to do the balancing. But yeah, it's fairly, you can just ask, don't do anything on this territory to the sales team, I will do everything for you, right. So the thing is, again, this is my experience. So we hire people from arts background. Okay, see, training hard skill is easier than training soft skills. Okay, so you are trying to create a superhuman being, which is not possible, to be honest. Yeah, you need to have a complement of left and right brain. Analytics, as such, as you said, he needs to have a business understanding, he should have the creativity, and he should be also be able to interpret data and play with the data. In real world it's not possible. The thing that you can do is you have you go to IITs and you go to BITS and NITs, hire those hard skill resources, but you also go to art school and commerce schools to bring them who brings that creativity or the right brain people and cross pollinate. That's the best, that's the only way we have seen it succeed. But one person having all the skills, unless he becomes 10-year plus experience, you don't get it at 2 years experience or fresher, or it's difficult, very difficult. Teaching hard skills is easier in my opinion. Teaching the soft skills and the business skills is that much more difficult. Very difficult. Creating the hard skill is, so if you have the intellect, you have the logical thinking, you have the analytical aptitude, you can make them masters in SAS and SPSS and machine learning and NLP, everything in 6 months time. Very easy. That's my least of my pain. My thing is, what do they do with that? They will come up with some fancy algorithm which I have never heard of, right? This is something which is trending on Facebook, on some forum last 20 days. They're more interested in that, but then how do you apply? Under what circumstances you apply? That knowledge is difficult. Sure. So if you can tell me your company or your industry background, then that can help me. Okay. Okay. Sure. Two, three things. Again, this is just talking from my experience. One is, do you have data? You are capturing a lot of data within the organization. Okay. And what percentage of data is getting used, right? That's a key question. Second is, are you seeing competition coming at your throat? Okay, that's important. Are customers becoming more demanding? Which is, so in some sense, there may be, let's take Harley Davidson. Do they need analytics? They have such a strong brand. They probably need analytics only from the manufacturing standpoint, not necessarily from the consumer standpoint, right? Does Caterpillar need analytics? Okay, those are the questions that you need to ask, whether I have enough competitive advantage to last me for next 5 years without focusing on data. Those are the questions that probably can trigger thoughts about doing analytics. Yep. Sure. Yeah, so it's people say junk in, junk out, right? I would say I have a different spin on it. I would say yeah, junk in, junk out is right, but within that junk, if you can identify the right data, you can still do something with it, right? So, but don't get bothered because 80% of the data is junk or not doesn't have quality. Focus on the 20%, which is right. So, see, I take examples. Okay, I take example of Capital One where I used to work at one point of time. I take example from Tesco and Amazon. Right. The thing is, Capital One during when I used to work for them, they used to run some 100+ campaigns in a week. Okay, and I still have those statistics. I remember 87 of those campaigns will fail. Yeah. Out of those 13, 7 would be mediocre success, right? And then 6 of them will be the killers, right? So it's a question of believing in it with a long-term vision rather than what is the ROI, and that's the tendency that Indian organizations have. Like before you spend $1, he is expecting $10. Yeah, and that's the reality of Indian business, unfortunately. Hopefully, people start maturing and start doing it much more in a much more mature way. Thanks everyone.
So we would like to thank Durjoy for this as an appreciation for his effort. A certificate from Unicom.
Thank you.
Uh, so we skipped one session, which was of Avinash Tripathi. Now he's not going to be here. So the next session would be a joint one in that conference room, in the neighboring conference room, which would be taken by Hemant Atre. We request you people to join that house where we'll have a joint track. Thank you. Welcome back to the post-lunch session. We have Robin Jose here, who will be taking you through this session. Thanks.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Can you guys hear me okay back there? All right. Okay, so we are starting the post-lunch session. How's food? Food was good? It was good? Okay. That's bad for me. So when I heard I was taking the post-lunch session, the first thing that I thought was you guys been hearing about big data and analytics for the last almost 1.5 days now, and then you had a good lunch, and you'll come back into an AC hall. That's a prime recipe for sleeping, right? All right, so here's what I'll do. I'll try to make it as interactive, as interesting as possible, as I can. And what I can request from you is that if you really feel like sleeping, my only request is that don't snore. You might be disturbing the other person who is trying to sleep. All right? All right, let's get started. What does this mean to you? Why would you be interested in this session? Like I said, last 1.5 days, we'll be hearing about big data and analytics and all these things. And my guess is that you're looking at it from 3 angles. One is that you would have been coming with, or you would be hearing about some of these things that people are doing in big data and analytics, and you'd be thinking, hey, that sounds interesting. Let me do something on my own, right? Let me start a company. Let me try something there, right? That's one kind of person. The second kind of person thinks, hey, I got some ideas, and I would like to go back and see if I can implement that in my company. I would like to see that if I can do that, if I can replicate that, or if I can better it in my company. And third kind of people would be people who would be thinking like, how can I learn more about it? How can I do more about this? How can I take myself from my career to the next level? So if you're any of these 3 people, you would find something interesting here. All right, that's my promise to you. All right, with that, let's start with, okay, before I go there, I'll talk about 2-3 things. We are going to talk about predictive analytics mostly, and we're talking about big data analytics, and one specific and very interesting segment of that is predictive analytics. And I'll tell you why that's predictive, why that's interesting and exciting. We'll talk more about that. We'll talk about how companies are using it, how companies are using predictive analytics to take their business to the next level and even create new segments. And finally, once you have like I said, you have some of those ideas and you want to take that to the next level, we'll talk about how you benefit from it, right? How you actually go and do it in your company. I'll try to say what worked for me, what I understood, what worked for other companies, and see if that makes sense to you. And we'll do all those things in 45 minutes, right? All right, so the power of predictive analytics. What's the power of predictive analytics? So high level, you define analytics into 3 segments, right? You talk about predictive, you talk about descriptive, and you talk about prescriptive. I'll talk about descriptive and prescriptive very briefly in the next slide, but here, this topic is all about predictive analytics. And predictive analytics is very powerful. It's powerful because what you're doing is predicting future. Predicting future. And that's bypassing the laws of nature. Because nature says you can't see the future because it's not here yet. That's very powerful. And isn't that what we always wanted to do? We've been doing that for ages via various methods, whether it's palmistry or astrology or whatever thing that reading tea leaves or whatever things that you can think of. Man has always been thinking about predicting the future. What happens to me in the future? And now we can do that in a mathematically proven scientific way. That's the power of predictive analytics, right? Now I talked about the display is not so great, but I think you can kind of understand what's happening there. Like I said there is descriptive as well as prescriptive analytics, right? We'll focus on predictive, but I just wanted to acknowledge both of them. Descriptive analytics is when you look at the past and then you try to gain insights from it. And hopefully that insights guides you into taking better decisions in the future, right? That's descriptive analytics. And that's not new. The lady in the picture is Florence Nightingale, the lady with the lamp, right? So she was credited to being the founder of the modern nursing technology or founder of nurses or whatever you call it. But she was also a statistician. Little known fact, but she was a famous statistician. In fact, that slide, the diagram is called as a Ross diagram, and now we call it a coxcomb diagram. Right? That was created by her in 1855. 1855. It's a descriptive analytic. No computers at that time. 1855. And what that shows is, unfortunately, it doesn't get displayed very well. We need a better projector. But that's the Crimean Wars that happened between 1854 and 56. And this is when she realized war, more than the actual casualties in the war, what really kills people is unhygienic circumstances and the lack of medicine, right? So what she's trying to convey there is that the red dots that you see at the middle, they're the actual casualties in the war. The ones, the blue or whatever color that is, and the brown ones, they are from, as you can see, that's from other causes or that's from diseases. Look at the blue ones. She really sent home the message in just one graphic that we need better medical circumstances, right? All right, moving on to one other aspect. And when I said descriptive analytics has been there for a long time, people also say predictive analytics has been there for a long time. And this is what happened to me when I was meeting a friend. Actually, he's a senior of me in ISB, and he was a CEO of a company, and I was talking to him about predictive analytics and said, look, I've been having predictive analytics over the last decade, right? We've been using that. I don't know why you're saying it's a new technology. And I said, interesting. Tell me more about it. What exactly do you have when you say predictive analytics? Then he said, look, I have sales forecast, right? And have that every year. And my team just an awesome job of predicting the sales. What's going to happen in the next year? And they said, I can give you a few more. I said, sure. And I said, he said, I have company attrition rates. I know exactly how many percentage of employees are going to leave in the next quarter. And I can say that for the next year. And my HR team does an awesome job. They're pretty accurate. I said, wonderful, these are good samples. But let me tell you what's the difference between predictive analytics and forecasting. What you're talking about is forecasting. Forecasting is all about aggregation, right? So you basically roll up the data. You talk to all the departments, and then you talk to the department and say, what's your percentage of people who have left the company, right? You roll that up, then you can roll that for the enterprise. And then you say, this is my prediction, my forecast, to be very specific, for the company, right? The same way you can calculate, like I said, for the sales figures and stuff like that. So what's predictive? What's the additional thing that you're bringing in as predictive? Now what if I can tell you that predictive can say who are leaving? So right now you said, okay, I know that maybe I have my attrition rate is 8%. Can I say who among the people are the 8%? Can I say why they are leaving? So that's one part. But it gets better. So the 8% of people that you talked about, let's say there are 100 people, right? That's your 8%. Can I say how many can be persuaded to stay back? Because some of them they made up their minds. They're going to go, whatever happens. Maybe 50% of them you can persuade back to stay in the company. How will you persuade them with? Will you give them a promotion? Will you give them a high? Will you give them a new assignment? That's a power of predictive analytics, because it's going to tell you what's their propensity to buy. I would say buy. In this case, it's retention, but still, somebody is buying something from you, right? Propensity to buy based on the offer that you have. That's a power of predictive analytics. Let me take another example, and there was the pre-lunch session. They talked about sales, right? Now, when a customer comes in, right? Let's say the customer is, we're talking about Harrah's, is a very famous gambling house in Vegas, right? The moment a customer comes in and the customer swipes in his card, so let's assume that this person has never been to the casino before, right? Just comes in, swipes his card. They're going to calculate real time a customer lifetime value. How do they do that? They understand your purchasing patterns. They understand whether you've been going to the dentist or you've been going to the pub. How often you go to both places. They have predictive models which can predict a customer lifetime value for you. And the treatment that you get in the casino is based on your customer lifetime value. So that's the power of predictive analytics. So that's on one side. So the power of predictive analytics is being able to influence the future. So 2 slides before I said the power comes from knowing the future. So let me revise that a bit and say